The joints do not line up with my trusses. They don't. Two of them do, but alright, we'll fix that. What's up, guys? This is Al, and in today's episode I'm putting together a 10 by 16 shed. You can see on the screen what type it is, but most of them are gonna be about the same. So I had a few setbacks, as you guys saw earlier, and I'm gonna be giving you all kinds of tips that are gonna be saving you hours and hours of work, and it's gonna make your life a lot easier, and probably it's gonna give you the confidence to do it yourself after I tell you how much I charge this customer to put this together. So let's get started. All right, so the first thing you need to do, guys, with anything is take everything apart. So I got my helper right here, and he sorted everything out. All the 2x4s, they're pre-cut. All the sheeting is pre-cut. Everything is supposed to be pre-cut. So I had him sort everything out by size, and that makes everything a lot easier. Now, the good thing about all these assembly jobs is the instructions are usually generally okay. Now, this one wasn't the greatest. I had some issues towards the end that I'm going to point out if you're doing one like this specifically. But other than that, all you need is just a tape measure, okay? The pieces are not labeled, they're not numbered. Everything you're going to have to measure, and that's how the instructions are going to tell you how to put everything together. Now, the first thing you're going to do with this shed is it wants you to put the end walls together. Tip number one, you need to bring at least, I would say, 10 2x4x8s. Straight pieces, go to the store, purchase at least 10 pieces, and then that's going to make your life a lot easier, because a lot of the pieces of wood in here, they were twisted, and instead of dealing with it, it's a lot easier just to swap them out and pre-cutting instead of having to straighten anything out. So once the walls are put together, well, you got to put the sheeting on, and that's exactly what I just did over here. And you're gonna have some overlap because the wood's not gonna be straight, and you're gonna need a saw to cut the leftover overhang. So tip number two is okay. I screwed everything together, and the reason why I did that is because, well, the customer requested that I screw everything together. I should have charged a little more for that, because I can tell you, using a nail gun is going to save you at least a few hours. Easily a few hours. And stay to the end. I will tell you exactly how long this took me to put it together, how much I charged the customer, how I came up with the price, and how I even got the customer. So anyway, so right here I'm putting the back wall. I made a mistake over here, and the reason the mistake I made is I should have flipped it around 360. So, because I have the front piece right now, the front of the wall facing the back wall, and so what we had to do later, we had to move that wall and flip it around, because it was just a pain. It was really heavy, and we had to go in the backyard, flip it around, and come back in. It would have been a lot easier if I had just, assemble everything, facing back. You'll understand in a minute. But anyway, so right here I'm putting together the front wall, and then this is the one that's the most important one to actually do, because that's where the doors are gonna go. So you want to make sure your pieces of wood are straight. The opening for this shed was 64.5 inches, and the doors themselves are 64 inches. So they literally only give you half an inch clearance for you to be able to clear that door. So there's not really much wiggle room. So you gotta be on your game here. You gotta make sure your measurements are right and everything's straight. So that will be the main tip that I gotta give you, is even though the shed itself comes with everything you need pre-cut, most times the wood, it's not going to be straight, it's going to be twisted. So make sure you pre-buy a few pieces just to make up for that. So another thing I had to do with this shed, I had to paint it. And then the next thing that I had to deal with is the back wall and the side wall. The customer wanted it right against the wall, and that causes an issue because, well, you have to pre-paint the pieces that are going to be facing the wall, because, I was not going to have access to right here. I'm flipping the wall around. You can see you know, what I had to do instead of if I had just assembled everything on the ground facing the right way. But here's the problem that I had. Since I didn't have much space in the back, the walls were really heavy and I was trying to line them up back there. And then there's one piece of siding in there that they want you to put together after you connect the walls, and then that is a little difficult to do, especially if you're not able to get in the back. But I was able to get it done, and right here you can see how I'm screwing the walls together, and no big deal, super easy to do. Here's the front wall, and this is the day number 1 right here. So day number 2, we actually finished the front wall, and then here's where I noticed that the ground was not level. So yeah, so that corner right there where my helper is, it was dropping about ½ inch. So I had to shim it down there. I had to make sure the wall was straight. So that caused a little issue with the door that's coming up. I'm going to tell you in a minute. But I make sure that my entrance was straight, level, plumb, all that good stuff. You know, even if everything else is twisted, you gotta make sure the front door is straight, because that's gonna be a big issue if it's not. Now, the next thing you gotta do is you gotta make sure your actual walls are square. And the way you do that is you get a tape measure and you go corner to corner and you make sure all the numbers match. And if the numbers don't match, all you gotta do is just move the stuff around to make sure that your shed's square. This is where I had another problem. The customer had actually pre-measured the ground, and he laid down some strips because he wanted the shed sitting on some strips on the ground so it wouldn't be sitting on water, you know, when it rained. And then he followed the wall, and we found out the wall was not straight. So, you know, so another thing, you know, don't assume things. Don't assume the customer knows what they're talking about. This customer said he used to do, you know, construction. He was a builder and blah, blah, blah. But, you know, his wall was not straight and he followed the wall. So thankfully, you know, I thought about that, and we were able to move the shed a little bit to make sure that it was square, and it wasn't a big deal. Now over here we put in the trusses up, and check this out. I followed the manual, guys. Everything that I did, I follow exactly what they told me to do. Now over here you can see I put the pieces, the sheeting up there, and then I realized there's a piece of J channel to catch the water that goes under it. So I fixed that, so because I misread the instructions. Now here I'm putting the trusses, and the way you do the trusses, the manual tells you to follow instructions. The first one, 21 inches and 3/4, and then every other one after that is going to be every 24 inches, and then the last one, 21 inches and 3/4, okay? Now, everything was perfect. Great. But check this out. Once I started putting my decking up there, you see the joint right there? It didn't line up with a truss. Normally, they're supposed to line up. But it didn't, even though I followed everything. I don't know if I got this on video, but let me show you real quick. So on the front and in the back, you're gonna have 2 pieces. So they call this a truss header, and it's a 2x4. So that goes right in front of the trusses, and then on top of that, you're gonna have your trim. There are gonna be 3 pieces. So the first one's gonna be 6 feet. The second one's gonna be 4 feet, and then the third one I think is like 77 inches long. So keep in mind, 2x4s go on the front first, and then the trim goes on the outside. Now another problem that I'm having is I spaced out my trusses exactly how the manual says, 21 3/4 inches, and then 24 inches from here to there, 24 inches from there to there, 24, 24, 24, and then the last one's gonna be again 21 inches and 3/4. But check this out, my panels up there, the joints do not line up with my trusses. They don't. 2 of them do, but alright, we'll fix that. Can you just keep in mind where you're putting your foot? Anyways, so right here, they don't line up, and that's what happens when you have a big gap in there that's not supported. So I'm gonna have to put braces in there just to hold these pieces of wood, because it's just when you step in there and you're not paying attention, it's gonna break just like that. So here I'm fixing the broken piece, and then the way I fix all the issues that I had and support the roof a little better, I just braced it. That was not in the instructions. It should have been in the instructions, and the reason why is because the decking they give you, it's literally thinner than half an inch. It's so flimsy, I do not recommend you to get on that roof unless you brace it like I did. Just find all the joints and put a piece of 2x4 in there and nail it to the trusses, and then it will make the roof a lot stronger. Do not get on that roof unless you do that, because it's just so flimsy, it will break. Alright, so I put the flashing around the drip edge because part of the job was roofing the shed as well, and I charge separate for that. Anyway, so here I'm putting the door, and here's where I found out that there's really not much space in there. And also one thing I was doing, I was having my helper paint as I was, fixing stuff around just to save time. And can you do this by yourself? Yeah, you can do this shit by yourself, but it's going to take you a lot longer. If you have a helper, it's going to go a lot faster. But anyway, so he was around, going around painting everything, and then that way I was able to get this done in 3 days. Now, the only problem I have with the door is it was just not fitting. I had to shave off a 1/4 inch on one of the doors, so that way I could line up the the gap reveal in between the doors, so that way it will fit and look nice. And another thing is I had to trim the excess sheeting in here, so that way the door will close. And I use my router, link in the description, affiliate links, if you guys want to see all the tools that I used, and all that good stuff if you want to help the channel. But yeah, that tool makes it so much easier. It makes a straight cut. And then the little slivers on the sides, I use my oscillating tool to cut. But anyway, so yeah, so I had to cut the door a little bit, 1/4 inch, no issues, everything lined up perfect. And so let's start talking about how did I find the customer. So this customer actually found me on Home Depot Pro Referral. He bought the shed from Home Depot, and during checkout, he clicked that he wanted, assembly systems. Anyways, and then I got the quote through their program, and then how much did I charge this customer? Well, I charged this customer $1,850, and that was just labor. I did not pay for any materials. Why did I charge that much? Well, this shed right here, if you buy it pre-built in my area, it's between $7,500 to $8,000, and on top of that, you got to pay taxes. On top of that, you got to pay delivery fees. So, and he paid about $2,200 on sale for this shed. So plus my labor, plus the shingles, I think he paid about $4,500 total. So that's how I came up with the price a little bit. And also I allotted 2 days for this job, but in reality it took me 3 days. How many hours? The first day took me 7 hours, second day took me 6 hours, and then the third day it took me another 7 hours. So total 20 hours, and then that includes painting the shed, and that includes roofing it too. And I put a drip edge all the way around, I put felt paper down, and I did the shingles. Roofing the shed, it probably took me about 2.5 hours, I think. 2.5, 3 hours tops. Okay, and it was really not a hard job. It was very easy to do. The hard part was just being in the sun all those hours, and the helper definitely made it a lot easier. The only complaint I have about this shed is the roof. It just sucks. It's very flimsy, and you gotta brace it, because there's no way you can stand on that roof like we are unless you brace it. You're going to fall through. So, but other than that, the instructions were very clear. My recommendation, if you're gonna do this job, is make sure you get a nail gun. Definitely will save you at least, I can honestly say, if I had used a nail gun, I would have saved at least 2 to 3 hours easily. But I used screws, and I had my helper go around, pre-drill the holes, so that was a lot easier. But remember, you're gonna have to pay a helper if you're gonna do a helper. Another thing is, you don't have to buy this shed pre-built. I mean, it's very easy to do. You can buy the materials, pre-cut them, and actually save yourself maybe $1,000 plus if you actually do it yourself. You can just get the manual, and then, you know, do it yourself. But here I'm showing you the finished product. You can see the drip edge. I have my overhang shingles right there. I learned everything that I know on YouTube. I follow the veteran construction. That guy taught me everything I know about laying down shingles. He's a pro, so you know, I learned from the pro. And I got my overhangs about an inch. Everything lines up perfect. Beautiful. Trim looks amazing. Customer was super happy. My rich cap over there, I made those myself because the customer didn't buy any rich caps pre-cut. Amazing. Beautiful. But other than that, guys, it wasn't hard, okay? It took 20 hours, and if I can do it, you can do it. And super easy to do. Just follow the instructions, and like I said, pre-buy some wood and get a nail gun, and you are in business. You can see I braced the roof right there. All the seams, they're braced. And yeah, that's it. Super easy to do. So if you have any questions, as always, guys, comment below. If you like the video, like it. And as always, I will see you next time.